The main differences between the shooting methods are where relatively to the target the barrels come to the target trajectory, and how fast, relatively to the speed of the target, the gun moves at the moment the shot goes off. As to the plan for the shot, the three basic techniques we are going to deal with here are almost the same. The sustained or maintained lead method stipulates that the barrel comes to the line initially ahead of the target and for a while matches the target angle velocity before the shot goes off. In the pull-away method, the shooter inserts the gun ideally exactly on the target, matches the speed for a while, then accelerating outstrips it, and so, when the shot goes off, the gun is a bit faster than the target. In the swing-through method, the barrels meet the line a little behind the clay, then accelerating overtake it, and the moment the shot goes off also move quicker than the clay. What is important to understand is that any shooting technique supposes connection with the clay, which means that there is a moment, sometimes a very short one, when the angle velocities of the gun and target are equal or almost equal. In order to hit a definite target, the gun at the moment the shot goes off must be directed the only possible and absolutely definite way, which provides meeting of the shot and the clay at some point. That is why the next concept, which is important to realize and which unites all the shooting methods, is that whichever method we shoot a definite target, the visual lead at the moment the shot goes off will be one and the same. One can make sure of that, for example, comparing videos of the shots taken at one and the same crosser with the three different techniques. Or to be more precise, comparing the snapshots from these videos taken at the moment right before the shots. On the other hand, in the same example, the shooter, while pulling the trigger, will perceive different amounts of lead for different shooting methods. Using swing-through method, for example, the shooter takes decision to pull the trigger the moment he sees that the gun is overtaking the clay. But psychophysiological and internal ballistics processes take altogether about 250 milliseconds. The shot leaves the muzzle with a certain delay. During that delay, the barrels, moving faster than the clay, advance ahead of the target to the required lead. Let's take a look at the lead the shooter saw the moment he started to pull the trigger in our examples. As we can see, the leads differ from shot to shot. And the quicker was the gun relatively to the clay, the less was the lead the shooter saw while pulling the trigger. The next element characteristic of any shooting technique is how the barrels come to the line of the clay, or basically how the shooter mounts the gun. That is how it looks like in the case of the crosser we have already seen if come closer to it and shoot it from the distance of 15 meters using maintained lead and swing-through methods. At first sight, in both cases mounting of the gun is quite similar. But actually, there is a nuance. It becomes obvious if we combine the two footages and draw the line that muzzle followed while the gun was being mounted. As we can see, in maintained lead technique, the gun mounting is wider, as the shooter has to complete matching the speed of the clay before the barrels are on the trajectory. On the opposite, in swing-through method, the gun mount is more narrow, as the shooter has to let the clay pass the gun, so as to come to the line just behind the clay. The next most important element of each shooting technique is eyesight work. There is also a room for similarities and differences here. That is how it looks like while shooting a high looping crosser. Before calling for a clay, the shooter looks with unfocused sight at the place where he expects the clay to appear. When the clay comes out, he catches it into the focus. Looking at the target firstly with a peripheral and then with a central binocular vision, the shooter thus supplied the brain with all the necessary information about the speed, distance, and direction the clay moves. That is a common stage of all the shooting techniques. While shooting swing-through method, where the trigger must be pulled the moment the gun passes the clay, the shooter keeps focus exactly on the clay. In pull-away method, everything happens a bit different. The first stage of eyesight work is exactly the same, catching the speed into the focus. But afterwards, as the barrels start pulling ahead of the clay to the lead area, the focus shifts there together with the barrels. Almost the same happens in maintained lead technique. Here, after the primal visual processing of the target, the focus slides from the target to the lead area, there where the shooter is going to pull the trigger. What is important is that in all cases the barrels and the clay are covered by the shooter's central vision spot, and thus their mutual position is well controlled by the shooter. The concept expounded here stipulates that the shooter at the final stage of the shot keeps focus on the spot where he is going to pull the trigger. At this point, it differs from the concept where the focus must always be on the clay regardless of the shooting method used. The shooting method application area is determined by the peculiarities of the method we use, as well as by the features of the clay we are going to deal with. The first thing that matters here is the angle velocity of the clay. It depends on the distance to the clay, its speed, as well as the angle at which the clay travels regarding to the shooter. Closed, fast targets change their angle velocity drastically as they fly by the shooter. Connecting with such a target may become a problem. If using the maintained lead method, there is a risk of slowing down the gun and missing behind. Shooting such targets as, for example, this fast crosser, it is reasonable to use swing-through or pull-away method where the gun is quicker than the clay. As the distance to the target increases, its angle velocity diagram grows smooth, and here maintained lead method will fit better. The second factor which dictates the shooting method choice is the amount of lead required to hit the target. If this lead is big enough, it is not quite advisable to use swing-through method, as it may cause too violent and inconsistent movement of the gun. Better smoothness here could be provided by using pull-away or even pull-away and maintain lead methods combined. One more criterion for choosing the shooting methods could be complexity of the trajectory, or so to speak, readability of the target line. Here the high crosser we have already seen. The lead it requires is rather big, and if the maintain lead method applied, there is the risk to miss off the line, as the clay travels on the background of the sky with no visible landmarks. In this case, it makes sense to use pull-away or swing-through method, given that the gun comes to the line from below, so as to see clearly where exactly the clay is flying to on the background of the barrels moving under it.